Unlock your potential today at skillbakery.com.
Now, this level 11, how we can stream the content. So based on the query that we will be providing over here, let's say ASP.NET MVC, and I want to generate the content for this one. So if I click on generate, earlier what used to happen is we were getting the whole text together and then we were displaying it. But what if we want to stream this? For example, if I click on generate now, you'll notice that we are getting the content as we are receiving it. So this is what we'll be learning in this one. So to remember, we made use of create chat completion, and this is what we were using to get the result and display it to the user. And there was a delay sending the request and then receiving the response. And by that time, the generate button was disabled. So what we need to do now is to get the output, and as we are getting it, we will be displaying it to the end user as well. And for that, we are making use of chat stream using Vercel's Edge Functions. So let's understand what is streaming. Vercel Functions support streaming responses, allowing you to render parts of the UI as they become ready. So this is how the web screen works. So you have client, you have server, you have sent the request, and then the server starts sending you the response. So we are breaking the large data into chunks, and then we are handling those chunks and displaying it to the end user. Now the Vercel functions, or Edge functions as they are commonly known, are the backbone of this streaming. So using the Vercel functions, we will be able to get the request, we will be able to get the response and process it accordingly. And here you can see that what all network APIs it supports, encoding APIs, streaming APIs, and other APIs that it has available, that it has got. Apart from that, we'll be also looking at the chat completion. So here you can see that we have our chat completions, and this is what we will be using OpenAI chat completion to implement the streaming feature. Over here in our chat stream.js file, we are first of all creating a configuration object, and there we are specifying the runtime as edge. And after that, here you'll notice the handler function that we are creating. It does have two objects or two parameters, request and context, not response. So we have the request. Using the request, we are passing the data as a JSON. So the prompt that we are writing or sending as request is handled over here. And then we are creating a completion object. Here we are making use of await fetch, and then this is the URL that we just now saw in the OpenAI documentation, and we are using it for streaming purposes. So here it has got the method and then the body. If you look at the body, we are specifying the model and then the messages. Messages we have already explored in chat that it contains role and content, and that is what we are specifying over here. Role as user and content is the prompt that we have received as request, and then we are setting the screen to true. Once that's done, we are getting our headers in place. We are specifying the content type as application JSON, and then we have our authorization set over here, that's bearer, which is the OpenAI API key and OpenAI organization. So these are part of the headers, and once that's done, we are taking this completion and we are setting it as part of the response. So completion to body is what we are setting over here, setting the status to 200, and the header for the response is set to application JSON with char set UTF-8. So this is our API. And now if I take you to the index.js page, here the first thing that we are doing is importing create parser from event source parser. Now event source parser is utilized to decode the content that we are receiving as response. So here if you see the console, this is what you're getting, and every data chunk that we have over here has this choices collection. Within the choices, you will find the delta, and within delta, you have the content. So we are using the event source parser to parse this choices collection that we're getting, and then accordingly, we are sending it to the user. And for this, we are making use of the NPM package, event source parser. Here you can see that how you can install it using the NPM install command, and then the usage is mentioned over here. So you can see that when we are creating a parser, onEvent is a callback function, and here this is for TypeScript. If you're using a JavaScript, you don't need to specify this type that they have mentioned over here. And here they are simply logging the events like received event, the event ID, the event name, and the data associated. Now we will be making use of this event.data and will be then using the parser to parse this. So here in our index.js file, what we have done is we have imported this create parser. After that, we have created this setText variable, and here our function remains the same for capturing the request. So here we are doing that. And next we are initializing the setText as undefined. And then we have our response object. But the response object, you see, is pointing to ChatBot API that we have just now created. The method is set to post, and then the prompt is being sent over here as part of the body, json.stringify. Header is set to application JSON. Once we get the response, we are assigning it to the reader variable using response.body.getReader. And then over here, we are creating the decoder, that's text decoder. Now, as I mentioned, on event, these are the console logs that we are capturing. And over here, as mentioned, event.data is something that we are looking for. So we are parsing that event.data and we're getting it over here as the data variable. And then on data.choices, we are filtering it. So we are filtering delta, and for each delta, we are getting the content out of it. So if you look at the response over here, we have the delta, and for each delta, we have content. So delta.content is what we are retrieving. And since this is going to be a collection, we are looping through it. As you can see over here, using the for each statement. And once we have that data, we are simply logging it over here in the console. So we are getting this data logged. And down below, you can see that we have created the parser, create parser, and on event is the callback function that we just now covered. So we have created our parser, we have created our on event callback, which is then parsing the content received via the stream. And finally, here we are doing an infinite loop. And what we are doing is we are simply setting the reader.read and we're getting the value and done. Now, once we have our value, we are getting the data string out of it. So this decoder.decode will give us the data string, and the data string then is checked whether it is containing the done keyword or the done truthy value. If it does, then we are simply breaking it. Otherwise, we are using the parser.read and we're feeding that data string over here. Once we do that, the event callback is initialized or removed, and accordingly, it prepares that data and sends it to the user. So here we are doing the setText, and that's when you see the output coming up. Over here, you can see that we are using previous or empty string. So if previous, that is the previous text, is undefined, which is going to happen when it's going to print the first response. In that case, obviously, there's nothing previous. So previous will be undefined, and to handle that, we are just showing the user with the empty string. Now, once this is done, we are setting the is loading to false. Down below, if you see, just after the form row, here we are simply creating a paragraph and we are setting the key as text, and the text itself is shown to the user. Now, if I save this and run it, let's go ahead and choose another topic over here, like what is Kubernetes, and we click on generate over here. Let's clear the log over here and then click on generate. Here you can see that as soon as the response starts coming in, we are showing the content over here, and here you can see all the event logs that we have written. So from here, it says received event, ID is none, name is none, and then it has got this data. Once it gets that data, it starts processing it, and again the same thing happens. So every time the chunk is passed to the parser.feed, the on event gets triggered. The on event then processes that data, sets the text, and the user sees it. So that's the overall flow of how we can implement streaming feature using OpenAI and Vercel's Edge Functions.
If you find the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.